We're back. Options bulls buying protection in the S&P 500 ETF today. The SPY ETF is up nearly 4% year to date. Pete Najarian joining us now from Minneapolis. Tell us about it, Pete.
Yeah, Scott, I mean, we talk about this all the time on the show, right? We talk about the volatility index and where it's trading, and people are always asking me, well, how do you trade through that read of the volatility index? It's not really through the volatility index itself. I actually go to the spider calls, or puts in this case. So what they're doing today, Scott, is they're going out to February, the February 26th expiring puts this time, not calls. And they're the 320 strike. So they bought about 30,000 of these, paid about $1 for these. Now, the reason this makes so much sense right now is Friday, we were looking at a volatility index. We could call it 20. I think we hit 1999. So call it 20. We pulled back, and today we were actually in the 14. So a big dramatic pullback. That's affected, obviously, the spider, which is the SPY. And that's why I think this makes a lot of sense. This is a very smart trader who's looking to either hedge to the downside, or maybe they've gotten a little bit bearish. To me, it feels more like a hedge. It makes sense to buy it now that it's gotten cheap. We talk about it all the time. Buy when you can, not when you have to. This isn't somebody who's chasing something under a fear move. We've had a couple of days over 400 points to the upside. Today, 100 points to the upside. So this makes a lot of sense that somebody would want to have protection in place going forward. Now, I got another one for you. Gilead. Now, this name's been in the spotlight for a while now. It has hit 7 times for unusual option activity in the month of January since we started the 2020 year. So that's something that stands out. And the biggest trade I've seen so far had been the March 67 calls. But they've been buying calls since the stock was started at about $63 a share, Scott. And they've been buying various different strikes and all the rest of it. Today, it's pretty interesting because they're buying some time and they're buying plenty of upside room. It's the April 80 calls, and they aggressively have positioned here as well. So some very, very large call buying there. That's something that really stood out to me because they're buying. Is a stock that's gone from 63 to call it close to 68 or 69, wherever it's trading right now. And it makes a lot of sense because we've heard about all the stories. It's also a stock that's not performed. The underperformance. A few weeks ago when I was on the show with you, I think at the New York Stock Exchange, we were talking about this name, and I said, you know, we keep waiting for a move out of this stock, and we just haven't had it. And I owned stock and calls at the time. I sold those calls. Well, now I'm back in the calls in Gilead as well. So I like what we're seeing here. I think there is plenty of room to the upside because from a valuation perspective and the drugs that they've got in the pipeline and the drugs that are already out there, I think Gilead's way too cheap right here.
Okay. What are you seeing in Tesla, Pete, if anything? Tesla's really interesting, Scott, because if you look at the 20-day average of volume in Tesla, it's been off the charts, right? Well, today, a dramatic drop in that volume. It literally, about the last I looked, we were trading about half of the normal volume that we've been trading for the last 20 days in Tesla. So that stood out to me. The other thing that I'd say is the volatility, the implied volatility of these options, in other words, the cost, it really expanded as the stock was sprinting to the upside, got up towards 900. The interesting thing here is you're seeing that volatility pull out as the stock has pulled back. So we were trading the implied volatility of the options across the board, different months, all well over 100 IV. So that was something that stood out. Now they're trading 70s and 80s. So a lot of that option premium has now come back. So very interesting to see that because usually you see that on the upside moves. This is on a downside move. Tesla's pulled back dramatically from where it was, down 17% yesterday. So it's really interesting to see the volatility coming out of these options as the stock is pulled back. So I would say the volume and this implied volatility pulling out, that's pretty interesting to see on a stock that's been all over the place over the last 2 weeks. Maybe some things, maybe it'll calm down for a bit in Tesla. Pete, we appreciate it. Thank you. We'll see you back here soon.
Absolutely, Scott.
All right.